Hello, dear researchers. Today, we're diving into a fascinating document from Øksendalen Egg in Ringebu, Norway. This is a first-hand account of a mysterious sighting that took place on a rainy evening in September 1972. Join us as we explore a detailed description of strange lights, unidentified objects, and an experience that still raises questions to this day. Observation at Øksendalen Egg, September 3rd. On Sunday, September 3rd this year, I was at Steinbakken, a cabin at Øksendalen Egg, together with my family. Øksendalen Egg lies just east of Ringebu. There's a connecting road that crosses the mountains here to Østerdalen, passing by Frisbois. This road continues towards Asdalen and Imsdalen. Around 9:20 p.m., I stepped outside to relieve myself and ended up standing for a while, looking down towards the cedar cabins and toward Øksendalsfjellet. The cabin where we were staying is situated higher in the terrain than the cedar cabins. Øksendalsfjellet lies directly to the east. The cedar cabins are located in a small valley running roughly north-south. That evening, the sky was overcast, gray and heavy with low clouds, and there was a light drizzle. As I looked eastward, I noticed a very bright and intensely shining star just above the mountain, slightly north of Øksendalsfjellet. I casually remarked to my wife, who was also outside, that she should take a look. Maybe it was the Star of Bethlehem shining so brightly at this time of year and in that direction. She agreed it must be, and went back inside the cabin. I found it strange to see such a bright star through such dense cloud cover, so I stayed outside, observing the sky more carefully. The sky was completely overcast and opaque. No stars should have been visible at all. When I looked back at the star, I realized it was moving, coming in my direction and descending slowly. It eventually stopped and remained suspended, glowing intensely like a giant burning object, shaped somewhat like an enormous egg. By this point, it had shifted so that I saw it against the mountainside, directly above the cedar cabins. Since I knew there was reindeer hunting going on further up the mountain, and because we were expecting my wife's uncle to visit that evening, I stayed outside, thinking it might be hunters lighting a fire to handle a reindeer they had shot. The object remained motionless, shining with a strong, steady light. Occasionally, beams of light radiated from it, like those of a powerful flashlight, but the colors and quality of the light were unlike anything I had seen before. About 4 to 5 minutes had passed since I first noticed the object in the sky. Down at the cedar cabins, I could see lights shining from 2 windows. Then I spotted what looked like a lantern moving around at the cedars. The lantern swung from side to side and appeared to be approaching the place where I was standing, about 4 meters from the cabin. I became convinced that it must be my wife's uncle coming directly through the terrain, including some marshland toward me. The lantern disappeared for a moment in the hollow between the cedars and the cabin. I remained standing, waiting for the uncle. Meanwhile, the object on the mountainside continued to glow as before. At that moment, I experienced a strange sensation, a strong feeling of being watched, although I didn't think much of it at the time. Suddenly, the lantern reappeared above the ridge in front of me and continued swaying toward me. When it was about 10 to 20 meters away, the lantern emitted a brief, intense flash of light, which was immediately answered by the glowing object on the mountainside. At that exact moment, the glowing object changed color from red to a bluish hue. It shifted into a horizontal oval shape and moved rapidly toward me in the lantern. In just 1 to 3 seconds, the object ascended to the level of the cedars and then rose, following the slope of the terrain toward the cabin. At this moment, the lantern was only about 5 to 15 meters away from me. It had a rectangular shape with the longest side positioned vertically and a clearly marked dark stripe, like a pole, running through the middle. At that point, I abandoned my position and rushed inside the cabin. Inside, my wife was completely unaware of what had just occurred. She was sitting in the living room, facing the window, rolling up her hair. As I came rushing in, she remarked that she had seen a brief, sharp flash of light reflected on the window, even though the curtains were drawn. There are no electrical power lines at the location or near the cedars. I didn't immediately respond to her comment. Just as I entered the living room, there was a sudden puff of smoke from the stove, although the fire was burning normally. I then explained to my wife what I had seen, and together we went to the kitchen window to look down toward the cedars. The foreign object was still there, glowing on the mountainside like a bonfire. I opened the window to get a better look. That evening, many cars were driving across the mountains due to the reindeer hunt. Every car that drove from Øksendalen toward Remdalen was followed for about 300 to 500 meters by the glowing object. It would follow above the cars heading eastward, shining brightly, just as it had when I first saw it as a star. We observed the phenomenon for about an hour. When there were no cars on the move, the object dimmed down to a bluish glow and drifted back down toward the cedars. We were also in the mountains the following night, but saw nothing unusual then. Both of us were completely sober that evening. We had simply been playing Yahtzee earlier that night.